Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. We're just pinging some few people into the room, and then Peter is going to start the room. I'm more than happy to do that. We are recording the room for today, and just an FYI.
Absolutely. Ready to rock and roll. And good morning, everybody. And thank you very much for joining our beautiful clubhouse this morning. And today it's an amazing morning here in Miami. And I just want to share that and to let us, wherever you are in the world, you have to see it as the most beautiful morning ever. Because that's how it has to be. And this being said, welcome to Grow Mastermind Group, a group of entrepreneurs whose mission, vision, and purpose is to encourage other entrepreneurs to discover, fulfill, and unleash their potential. And we are meeting Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 9:30 a.m. And today we have an amazing honor to have Maribel Gray, who's going to share an amazing way and is going to teach you about how not to ignore accessibility, which is one of the most important elements for landing page and websites. And we're also gonna see the importance, and we're gonna understand also how this thing is gonna function towards your advantage. And of course, uh, we're open here for anybody question. So if you have any question, please feel free to raise your hand and bring the question on the table. We're gonna bring on the stage. While you're on the stage, just make sure that you're gonna be flashing your mic, and we're gonna be ready for you. We're gonna give you the stage. And this being said, let's hear from Maribel. Maribel.
Hello, welcome everyone. Good morning. Um, I'm a graphic web designer and I'm here to discuss web accessibility. By the end of the presentation, you will understand as business owners the key reasons why it's important not to ignore this when building your websites, funnels, apps, and other digital products. What is accessibility? Web accessibility is a process by which you make sure a person with a disability has equal access to your web and digital content as someone without a disability. An example may be someone who is blind using a screen reader to navigate your website. And why is this important? Making the web open to all was a foundational tenet when it was established, and we all benefit when design standards are adopted for those who might have accessibility issues. So some examples of this is, when you decide to enlarge the font on your website because you've misplaced your reading glasses, if you've had closed captioning on video when you want to consume content but can't because you can't have the audio on and you're in a crowded, loud environment where it'd be difficult to hear the audio. Or perhaps when your internet connection is poor and you aren't loading images because the alternative text can allow you to still see the content anyway. Or perhaps when you would rather listen to a web page or book app instead of reading it because you want to multitask, or that you don't have time to watch a video but you can scan a transcript for key points. All of these options exist because they were developed for those with accessibility issues so they can access the content in an alternative way. So when we design the web to those who need extra help, we actually benefit everybody. And so designing for accessibility is good design. Um, Now, the scope of the accessibility issue is actually quite larger than people probably think. Approximately 20% of the world's population have a disability that impairs their use of computer technology. And for some, that impairment is temporary, and others, it's a permanent disability. And what are some of these conditions? Conditions that cause vision impairment. So people who are colorblind, have low vision, or are blind. Conditions that cause auditory impairment, like being hard of hearing, deafness, or tinnitus. Conditions with speech impairment, cognitive, learning, and neurological impairments. So this would include things like people on the autism spectrum, people with intellectual and learning disabilities, ADHD, those with seizures, and those with physical disabilities, like people who may have had an amputation and are using joysticks to navigate a computer, people with repetitive stress injury like carpal tunnel, And then even people who have some level of paralysis, and those people may use what's called eye tracking software, where the software can register their eye movements and they can actually control the computer in this way. So you can see there are many issues that cause impairment that would need to be supported when using the web. And why should business owners be particularly aware of this issue? Well, most business owners are actually unaware that in most countries there are legal requirements that your website, funnel, app, or digital product be accessible. And as such, if you're non-compliant, that means you're subject to fines and lawsuits. So I'm going to speak mostly about the United States, but there are similar laws in other countries, and the World Wide Web Consortium has actually adopted an international standard. So all countries really should be following the international standard for accessibility. But in the United States, we have several laws that are involved with accessibility. And for those that are involved with the government, so if you work for a federal agency, or you are a contractor to a federal agency, or you receive federal funds, you may be subject to the Section 508 guidelines. So the Section 508 guidelines were from the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 that was amended in 1998 to require all federal agencies to make their electronic and information technology accessible to those with disabilities. And it was enacted to eliminate any barriers to IT for the disabled, give them new opportunities, and promote the development of technology. And it does not apply to private websites. So if you don't receive federal funds or you're not under contract with a federal agency, then you don't have to worry about Section 508. But it is one of the strictest accessibility standards out there. And the only exception to 508 is if you might have to deal with national security. So the NSA would be an example of an agency that might not have to follow all of the Section 508 guidelines if things are considered an undue hardship to that agency to make something accessible. Um, but the rest of businesses are more under what's called the ADA, or the Americans with Disabilities Act. So this is something that is relevant to private companies. So the Americans with Disabilities Act was enacted in 1990. So it just recently celebrated a 30-year anniversary, and it prohibits the discrimination against those with disabilities to ensure equal rights and opportunities to those with and without disabilities. So it covers all sectors, public and private. And it was applied to electronic information technology, including websites, funnels, and apps and things like that, in 2010 by the US Department of Justice. And they didn't really, in the law, spell out exactly what you needed to do for accessibility, but they adopted a kind of general standard for accessible design. And to explain the different ways this might apply to you and your business, um, they have split businesses into three groups. So there's the Title One, Title Two, and Title Three businesses. So Title One businesses are those that have 15 full-time employees and operate 20 or more weeks per year. So Title One businesses would be required to make all of their digital content accessible. And then Title Two is where Section 508 applies. So those are the federal agencies that I just covered. And then Title Three is where things are somewhat of a gray area, but Title Three businesses are those that provide public accommodation. So if you think about the ADA in terms of brick and mortar physical stores, so these would be businesses open to the public, like things like schools, places of recreation, offices, hotels, banks, uh, places of public transportation. So they would fall under Title III and the ADA, and they would need to provide accessibility. Now, when you look at digital products, so something like an e-commerce website might fall under Title III, or any sort of mobile application that's open to the public. So it is a bit of a gray area, and if you have any confusion as to whether your business specifically needs to, needs to falls under Title III and is needs to be compliant, I would consult a disability lawyer. I'm not a lawyer, so if there's ever any legal questions, then you should definitely speak directly to a lawyer about your specific guidelines with your business. Um, and what is the liability? Let's say you choose not to make your website compliant, and what can happen to you So basically, if you aren't compliant and you're required to be compliant under the ADA, then it would open you to an ADA lawsuit. And just like ADA lawsuits for physical brick and mortar businesses can run into the thousands of dollars, you could be sued on the basis of your website not being accommodating a person with a disability, and the lawsuit can run into the thousands of dollars. So it is an issue that you shouldn't really be ignoring. And now this has been around since 2010. The ADA has been around in 30 years. So why are we talking about it now in 2022? Well, mainly because most businesses have kind of skirted around this issue. They haven't really been compliant, and enforcement has been kind of lax. And so they noticed in like 2020 they did a survey of websites in the United States, and they found that 98% of websites were not compliant with the ADA. So that's a lot of websites that are just ignoring these laws. And because of that, there has been an increase in lawsuits and an increased focus on accessibility. So in the design community, 2021 was the year to focus on accessibility. So there was definitely a lot of more talk about it. So more people are becoming aware, more people are understanding that this is important. And of course, that means that there's probably going to be increased enforcement. And in fact, in 2021, the National Review published an article on June 2nd that US companies have been inundated with lawsuits in the past several years, alleging that their websites do not comply with the ADA and various state laws, including a California law, the Unruh Act. So plaintiffs claim that the websites do not meet the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, which are those web standards that we've adopted, that is governed by the nonprofit World Wide Web Consortium. And the basis of the lawsuit was visually impaired consumers or blind people allegedly cannot access sites using screen reader software. And while it's difficult to determine what precision the number of cases have been filed, they have increased 75% from just over 2,000 reported cases in 2018 to approximately 3,500 in 2020. And these numbers are steadily rising. And the cases target all manner of business across a wide range of industries. And a couple of years back, there was a spate of lawsuits that hit New York gallery owners. And the reason it hit gallery owners in particular was because their websites were kind of an easy target, because the art community, they often need, their websites would have a lot of photographs on their websites. And a basic requirement for accessibility is that your photographs should have what's called alternative text. So alternative text is just a little description that describes what is in the photograph. So if somebody who's blind comes upon your website and they're using a screen reader, that alternative text will be read to them so that they can understand what's in the photograph, because they can't see the photograph. And so of course, like a gallery that has most of their website is photographs, the fact that they didn't have any alternative text on their photos was just an easy lawsuit. And so all these newer galleries were sued in a short time period, and a majority of them lost their lawsuit, mainly because the ADA has been around for 30 years. It was 2010 has been already a decade over, and they had no defense. They couldn't defend themselves on why they weren't being compliant with this law that's been on the books for like years and years. And as a result, some of these galleries closed. So this was like a bellwether to the museum community. And the reason that I'm so up on this accessibility issue is because I work for a design agency that our niche is museums, art businesses, and things like that. So we do a lot of design for museums and things like that, galleries, exhibitions. And so our niche customer was targeted. And so, in 2021, we started getting phone calls from all of our museum clients. They're like, oh, we need to make things accessible. Can you, make our PDF version of our book that we're going to put on our website? Can you make that accessible? And so, so we had to start doing that. And I mean, I was aware of this issue in the past, and when we would we would talk to a web client, we would always bring it up, hey, but it's extra money and it's extra time. And a lot of business owners would say, I won't worry about that. And this is the year where you really should stop saying that uh, you need to, because we have more lawsuits are a possibility. And there are other reasons, of course, to be ADA compliant. Like the primary reason is that it's the right thing to do. We by not making our websites, funnels, digital things compliant, we are basically excluding our content from a huge portion of the population who can be our customers. And of course, if in a competitive space, if you're the only person in your business, your niche, that is actually providing their content to those with disabilities, you could actually have a market advantage, because those are people that can't get their uh, services from the other company because they're ignoring this issue. And then another reason to make all of your things compliant is that uh, any website that's following these basic web accessibility standards is also going to be automatically search engine optimized. So if you're unaware what that is, search engine optimization is basically a way to make your websites and digital products found in search endings like Google, because there are certain tags and things like that are on your website. So search engines are constantly scanning the code of your websites, and it's looking for keywords, it's looking for various things. But if your website is compliant to these standards, it's more likely to be picked up by these search engines. So if you're doing all the right things on your website, you're also going to make your website easier to find in a search engine, and so that's going to help your business as well. So, ADA compliance in the end is just good business. And how would you go about doing this? How would you go about and making your websites accessible? Well, there are some basic things that you should do. So, like we already discussed, that photographs should have alternative text. You should also, if you have video on your website, then you should be adding closed captionings to your video, so someone who is hearing impaired can just read what's happening in your video. And also, both video and audio should have transcripts. So if someone is hearing impaired, again, they can just read the transcript of what's being provided in that content. Another basic thing is to declare the language of your website. This is just a small piece of code that's added to the header of your website that just says, this website is in English, or this website is in German. And this is just something that's helpful to screen readers, that it understands which language it should be focusing on. And this is more for your web designer, that your website have a consistent organized layout. So if you're more organized, if your website follows a layout that's similar to other layouts, then that is something that's going to be easier from an accessibility standpoint. And then if you have any links in your website, buttons or just text that's a link, then all of those links should be clearly labeled with descriptions that tell the user what happens if the link is clicked. So there's special text that you would have to add to a link that is what's read by a screen reader. And when you have text like that's really vague, like click on this button, click here, that's really not enough for accessibility. It really should state, click here to be taken to the About Us page. It should be very clear where the person is going, because they're not going to click on a link that they have no idea where that link is taking them. So if there's important information in that link that you want somebody to go to, and they're using a screen reader, they're not going to go there if your information on your button is not clear, or it just tells them to click here. They're not going to do it. And then another, this is more again for the web developer, but your website should be built with what we call clean code. So that it's a well-coded website, that they've done the things that are standard to code that makes them proper. And so if it's a proper, well-coded website, then that's automatically more accessible than one that's just disorganized. So those are the things that you should consider. Now, a lot of people probably use certain software to build their sites. So a lot of this software actually already has all of this built in for you. So if you use, for instance, ClickFunnels as a funnel builder, there are spaces for you to add all this accessibility stuff. It's just that because people are unaware of what they're looking for, or they don't know that this is something they have to do, they ignore it. So it's just a matter of looking a little bit more closely at the software that you're using. But if you are adding a photo, for instance, to ClickFunnels, if you're adding a photo to WordPress, Groove has the ability to do it. You'll notice a little box, another box that says alt text. So that's the alternative text. That's where if you put a description in that little box, you're compliant now for that photograph that you've added that alt text in. So WordPress does it too. It has alt text box. So a lot of these softwares that everybody's using that are drag and drop, or they've built it in. So, and of course, like a new web builder on the that a lot of web designers now are using is Webflow, and they've actually specifically decided that they want to make accessibility an important part of what they're doing. So all of their websites are automatically going to be compliant because they built that into the software. And I think another one is a common one. Squarespace, I believe, also does things from the standpoint of accessibility. Now, if you're hiring someone as a web designer to build your site, this is something that you have to have a discussion about, because don't automatically assume that your web designer is going to make your site compliant when you hire them. You have to, question them and let them know, this is important to you. This is something that you want on your website. It's probably going to cost you a little bit extra money because, of course, it's extra time devoted to building your website to make it accessible. So it is going to cost you to do this, but have that discussion with the web designer. Make sure they're knowledgeable, because honestly, not all web designers are knowledgeable of this issue. And if you're someone who's outsourcing content, outsourcing labor to other countries, their designers may not even be aware. Like if you're here in the United States and you're outsourcing the building of your website abroad, those designers in those other countries may not be very cognizant of our particular laws. So make sure you ask them, like, do they know about these laws? Are they doing this? And so accessibility is just one of those things that we need to think about when we're building our websites, that to be compliant with existing laws. And other issues, it's a little beyond today's topic, but other issues that for your website is that you need to have privacy policies. Now, this is a legal requirement in the United States, many other countries as well. Of course, the European Union is a big one with their GDPR. So you need to have a privacy policy on your website. You can be fined. California has their own specific privacy policy rules. So if a California resident comes to your website and there's no privacy policy there, you would be subject to a lot of fines. And these are expensive fines. It's like $2,500 per user, per user that is not being subject to you presenting them a privacy policy. That's a lot of money. And then now you might be seeing a lot of cookies, and this is a thing that has to do with privacy laws, where they've made it another level. So the PDR made it another level where you need to obtain someone's consent to your cookies before you subject them to your cookies. And for the GDPR requirements, so if you're in the European Union and you're a majority of your customers are going to be EU residents, and these are EU residents that are living anywhere in the world. They don't have to be in Europe. Uh, you are required to have a cookie banner. Now, for the California Act, that requires cookie banners, it's more for businesses of a certain size. So if you're a certain level of business, you're a large business, then you would need to have a cookie banner. So these are all things that are required now by law, and then not all web designers are aware of these things. So when you're building your website, make sure you have these discussions with your website designer so that they're aware that these are things that you want on your website, so that you're compliant and it's not something that you have to worry about. So that's basically the end of my presentation. If anybody specifically has questions about anything I've said, feel free to ask.
Thank you very much, Maribel. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And let me ask you this. I'm just curious. Like if anybody is like, kind of putting this alternative text, do they need to have a like kind of software to read it, or is going to be read automatically by the computer? Let's say inside software.
Basically, the accessibility software that so a screen reader is basically going to pick up. These are hardware and software. A lot of these technologies. So the screen readers are physical things, and also softwares that can basically pick up all these extra code. So it's looking in the code for these particular terms, like the alt text, and it's just going to read that whatever's there. And so, and also writing, you may have to hire also a copywriter to do the alternative text, because sometimes writing good alternative text is its own skill. So where you're looking at a photograph and you're going to describe it to someone who's blind, you sometimes you might need to hire a copywriter for that, as well as another expense where you're going to write good alternative text for that person, where you're really going to be able to describe to them what's in that photo so that they can understand it if they're blind. um, So what I've been working on actually over the last few months is I've been trying to develop a Chrome extension, an app that's able to analyze a website and able to figure out what's not compliant. Where you're having problems, and then it can actually help direct someone who's familiar with coding, like your designer or your developer, where they need to go back and fix something, and then they can continue to rescan the site until they're not coming up with those errors anymore. So I've been working on this Chrome extension. It's probably going to be ready to be launched by mid-April now. I got a little bit of a delay because I had to go through the Chrome Web Store approval. But so the name of the Chrome extension is going to be Web Access Pro, and so it's just something that you can use to scan your website, and then you can see if it's compliant or not. And then you could bring that information to someone that would know how to fix the code, to fix the code for you. But I think that an easier solution for a lot of business owners is that there's accessibility widgets now. And so you could just basically, um, rather than hiring a developer to fix your site, which of course that might be fairly expensive, you can pay a monthly fee for these widgets that are attached on top of your website. And when a person hits the widget, they can actually select a profile like I have seizures, and it will automatically adjust your site for that person. So like a person with seizures who comes to a website, they turn this profile on. Anything that's moving on your site, like a slider or things like that, they will automatically be stopped. The colors will be dulled, and then that person can safely navigate your website without the worry that they're going to be triggered, have a seizure triggered. And so I've been looking at a lot of these widgets to figure out which is the best widget, and I think that the one that I like is Accessibility. So if you go to my bio, I've put a link there of where you can find that, and also I put a link if you're interested in looking at this Web Access Pro Chrome extension. I have a sign up list, and it also explains a little bit more about what it does and shows you a demonstration. So if it's something that would interest you, but I think for most business owners, they don't need something. They don't, unless they're building a lot of things. They don't need a software that's scanning all the things they're building, because you probably just have the one website or whatever. Um, but the widget is good because that's an easier solution for you. It will involve a monthly fee, and so it depends on your budget, if that's within your budget. But it would kind of alleviate the worry that you're going to get sued, because um, these widgets are there on top of your website, and most lawyers are getting more cognizant about this issue, so there are a lot of lawsuits coming up, and so if they see a widget on your site, it's not worth their time. And a lot of the widgets also include litigation packages. So the one that I recommend also has a litigation package, so that if you pay for that litigation package, then they will represent you in your lawsuit or whatever, and you don't even have to worry about it.
Sounds very interesting. And let me ask you this also. So in the mall, let's say that so which are the most, I'll say, proeminent from all these needs that are most beneficial for business owners? Like, like I understand alt text is going to be one of them, but what else is going to be something that you will recommend as a business owners to must have from the standpoint of the business, of the packages, of the way that your website is going to be trigger new customers?
To trigger a new customer, what do you mean?
Like, to get new customer, because right now, you have all these things that is going to help you, which are the most common, I will say, elements that's going to help your website to be more meaningful for disability people.
So like alternative text for photos is a big thing, and then the other thing is transcripts and closed captioning for videos, because
Okay.
obviously videos are a big, videos are important now in everything, and so if you take the time to close caption your videos and add an option for a transcript, those are big things for any audio content as well. So like for transcription, rev.com is a service that's good. Rev.com for transcription. That's It's a little bit more expensive because it's actually you're getting human transcriptionists to do the transcription for you, so it's likely to be more accurate. A more budget conscious option would be Otter.ai, and so Otter.ai is obviously an artificial intelligence. So it's basically an artificial intelligence that will come up with a transcript. It's it 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 often requires you to go back and edit it because it's I think the AIs are considered about like 988 to 90% accurate. So a human transcriptionist that Rev provides is more accurate because they can pick up nuances in people's voices and things like that. But the AI is fairly accurate. And one thing I found with Otter is that even though they have limited minutes um, for the how many minutes you can transcribe, if you go to the conversations option, and so basically with conversations, you're basically anything that's just playing on your computer, you can hit record and it's like transcribing whatever's sound is coming out of your computer. I found that that's kind of unlimited, so that's sort of a workaround that I use with Otter. So I could just take a video and start playing it on my computer, and then I use that function, and then I can do as many videos as I want and get the transcription without being limited by their limits on their minutes. Uh, the only issue with that is that you have to reduce ambient noise because it's going to pick up any ambient noise around you. And I work a lot with Premiere Pro because I have the Adobe Creative Suite as a designer. And so Premiere Pro just added, maybe in the last year or so, they have a transcription function. And I'm using that a lot now because I do all my video editing with Premiere Pro. And if you go down to text and do transcribe sequence, it will automatically transcribe the sequence. And then again, this is an AI, so you would need to go through and edit it. Once you edit it, then you just say create captions, and it automatically close captions your video. So I think that's a great function with Premiere Pro. Um, I don't have to pay any extra fees. It's already built into the fees I pay for Creative Suite, and I can get all of my videos closed captioned. And so if you're outsourcing your video work, you could find out if they're using Premiere Pro, and then they can, you can let them know that you want that for your videos.
And the other one was other, or which was the other one that you were mentioning earlier? The question to
So
repeat.
actually, links is another thing to that's another key thing. Just make sure your links are clear and your buttons are labeled so that a user knows where the button is taking them. Those are three key things, and then declaring the language of your website is kind of a easy fix because it's just like a single line of code at the top, just saying, "Hey, my
Maribel?
website is English."
Maribel, I think Peter was asking about the Otter tool. Was it otter.io?
Sorry, otter.ai.
AI.
AI.
Thank you.
Great. Jitika, that's the answer. Uh,
Say again.
yeah, because we had Jitika ask a question about if we can repeat the name of the thing. So, anybody else on the phone? The Cindy, Karina, any question that you have? This is a good moment to ask.
I have a
Anybody in
question.
the audience? Sure, definitely.
Hi. So
Hi.
what I wondering is how do I make reels? Is there like I'm recently been posting on Instagram reels and I noticed that with pictures I can go and do and describe, but I haven't. How do I make reels do that? Is that possible?
You mean add alternative text to your images in your reels?
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that question. I would have to. I can look that up and come back, and I can let
Oh,
Peter
okay.
know.
No. Okay, sweet. If you could do that, thank you. Really appreciate it. Really great. I really liked it. It reminded me that I used to describe my pictures and I totally stopped doing the alternate text. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Hmm.
So yes, uh, the best thing is like like if you're gonna contact Jitika, if you contact Maribel, I think she can help you to give you all the links. So just back channel her, and she's gonna help you to give you all the links that you need. I think that's the most safe way. She knows more about those than I do. So just contact Maribel, and she can help you for sure. So try to do that. Jitika wants to know more information, so Maribel, just try to reach out to her. And if anybody has any other question regarding the subject and what we was talk about, this accessibility and how to earn this extra 20% of the market that it's hidden, by all means, uh, find out more, question us, and we're more going to be more than happy to answer all the questions that it is, especially right now. Maribel can answer everything, and that is needed for this accessibility. So, and the other thing that I was just trying to ask you, Maribel,
Hmm.
in the moment we have all these nuances done, is there a necessity to have like like for instance, if you have like 20 pages, you're gonna have to have in every single page the same thing done, or is gonna be enough to have the most important parts? And then the other thing that I was thinking, that let's say that you have a lot of text inside, yeah.
Hmm.
Will that be able to be presented as a reading, for those one that they are like hearing impaired? And if so, what we're gonna use for that one to be read to them? Is there anything that we have to do on our side, or is gonna be done maybe to any software that they're gonna be able to read the text?
The screen readers themselves will just, if you just have text, the screen readers can read the text. So often when I'm saying that you should have like good markup or good, it's just that like if you have a long piece of text, if you have a good header on that text, then it tells them what that text is about. So um So once they get to the header, and it explains what this text is about, they can decide if they really want to read that long thing. So so the good thing, if you're going to have present long passage of text, is make sure you have a good header, so that they can decide if they really need to spend the time listening to that. So and that's the same thing with like if you have things like tables in your website. So by having a clear explanation of what's in the table, it helps them know whether they need to spend the time to listen to the table, because in a table, unfortunately, will be read like cell by cell to someone who is using a screen reader, and you can imagine how tedious that is. So by putting good headers on your things, then it lets them know whether they really need to spend the time listening to it, and they can go to the parts of your website that are important to them and ignore the ones that are less important. If like most computers now, like Mac, I'm more familiar with Mac, but Mac has accessibility features in your system preferences, and one day you should try turning it on, what it's like to be it is actually really tedious to have a website read to you. uh, so check it out yourself. Like, you can use the basic software that's included with your computer, and turn it on your phone and try it out. It's interesting to try to experience how somebody else is viewing these things. And that's when you understand that it's if you have things written out clearly and organized, how much better the experience is for them you know
100%, 100%. And I think it's it's so important, because especially because it's they consider like a 30% of the market, and you as a business owner, if you want to reach out to all those aspects, I think it's so important for you to have those things sorted out, and make sure that you're gonna have easy access for all those impediments that humans can have, and your clients, of course, and having all those one ready, I think it's amazing. And uh, just a quick, I would say, wrap up of the whole idea. So we have to have, like, like all this accessibility, like, to pay attention to the alternative text, to pay attention to uh, on the videos, to make sure the closed capture is on, and we're gonna have a very clear one, yes.
hmm
And the last one that I think it was on the list is to make sure that you're gonna have um, on the text, it's gonna be able to be read it properly, and maybe to put something that's gonna help them to be read it to them. And last and not least, I think it was also about the idea itself of using maybe one of those software that is going to help to identify what kind of impediment that they have, and to adjust your websites to their needs, to make sure that they're going to become they're going to be able to navigate your website with ease. And you were mentioning a few websites, and maybe you can drop it inside of the chat for everybody to see them, and to learn about them.
okay.
So yeah, so in that way, like everybody knows that, like, what website to use, and to use this software that is going to be able to help those people to change the colors, stop the images that are moving, and make sure that they're going to be easy for them to read. And like on the end note, if somebody was going to look for you and to find you on social media, what is the best way to reach you out, and to get more information, or to be able to help them with other parts of the graphic design or the creation of the websites?
um I guess the easiest way to find me from Clubhouse is to go to Instagram, and I'm on Designers Learn Code, and then you can message me from there. And then, my email is actually maribel@designerslearncode.com, so you can always.
So everybody take notes. Maribel at designercode.com. So if you have any question, you can definitely DM her and reach out to her. If anybody has any other question, any other information that you would like to find out, this is a great moment to do so. And ask the question, or if in any remark that you would like to be clarified, this is also a good opportunity for you to do so. Let me see here.
Hey Maribel, this is Karina. I want to
Mm-hmm.
thank you for coming on and sharing this information with us today. I had no idea. I knew there were requirements out there. I did not know the ADA had requirements on websites that were, excuse me, prosecutable. That is very enlightening to me. I'm right. I'm in the process of talking to my web developer right now, going, we better be compliant, or I'm going to come over and grab you by the throat. But what you shared today was so educational and informative. So thank you very much for coming today. I didn't know what to expect, and I was blown away. So thank you, Maribel. We really appreciate your time and sharing your talents with us.
Mm-hmm. Is there a way to send information to the whole group? Or should I? Because I have it.
Chat.
I put everything in my bio, but some links and things. But I don't know if that's easy to look at. If there's I could send a sheet or PDF or something.
We can attach it on the top of the page. If you have a PDF and it's inside of like a link, there's a link on top that we can put it there. And the other way is there's a chat, and if you press the chat, you can actually send chat information to everybody.
Because I've been trying to paste something into the chat and it won't. It's been a long time since I used Clubhouse, to be honest.
It's fine.
I can actually, what I could do is I can. A lot of the information is already in my link tree. So if you go to Instagram, and I'll add some of the other links there.
Sounds good. So
I can add it to my link tree.
you have to go on everybody go on follow Maribel on Instagram and go to her link tree where you're gonna find more information on every single link that she was talking about today. So in that way you're gonna be on top of the game. And here
Yeah.
we go. Wonderful.
Um.
Okay, let me see
Oh,
here.
one thing I forgot to mention actually is the other thing that you have to make compliant, because it goes beyond web design necessarily, is that things that are people download from your website, so they should be also accessible. So a PDF actually should also be accessible. Speaking of PDFs, and so that's a whole different process of how to make a PDF accessible. Is more desktop publishing, like people using Word, and so it's a little bit beyond web design. I know how to do that as well, but it's a different topic technically. Um, but yeah, so
So I'm assuming every single form, if they download the form, is gonna be the same thing, yeah? For like a
yeah,
form.
anything related to your website, so anything you can download from your web, I mean, all of that has to be accessible, and that was why the museum community was saying they came to us because they have a lot of uh, electronic journals, electronic books, and things like that, and so they had us make all those things accessible. So that was a big project I worked on just last year and a few months ago. Is that the Textile Museum journal that we work on? We had to make the whole journal accessible as a PDF, and it's like a 230-page journal, so that has to be accessible.
So it was coming with a lot of fun. Well, thinking 200, I was thinking about my 3 pages that I have as a PDF, how I'm gonna do it, and now you tell me 200, I'm feeling already like guilty. But yes, uh, indeed. So definitely, like, I'm assuming everything, like including videos and anything else that it is, and for each of them, it has to be a different way that's gonna be done for it to be accessible. The more it's gonna be downloaded.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, actually, closed captioning your videos is a big deal with social media anyway, because you know, people don't want to turn their sound on anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
so they put only like mute.
so if you
Yep.
have a closed captioning on your video, you're more likely to get people to watch your videos.
Yep. So that's a good tip for everybody that's on the social media as a web uh, guru, to say like that, and they do their video content, and they do anything that has to do with education. So make sure you can have your closed capture on. And any other last tip, because we are getting closer to wrap up our beautiful 1 hour. And by the way, for everybody that's new here to us, we are meeting Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday and Friday from 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we are the Grow Mastermind Group, and we are just a group of entrepreneurs, like just like you, that we're here to help each other and to sustain each other, and to work together. So follow us. We have also our Facebook, and we have our um, IG. If you want to go on Instagram to follow us there, and we're more than happy to answer any question that is regarding entrepreneurial journey. And if you have anybody that or anything that you think we should talk about it, feel free to reach out to us and to suggest to us, because we're more than happy to have important conversation about your entrepreneurial journey. And yeah, um, going back to you, Maribel, if it's anything else that you think they should know, like, or about you, or about your projects, is any project that else that you work on, or if you have classes or things that you do, or on social media, and you can share with us and with the audience, to make sure that they know how to find you, to look out for you, and to see what else you're working on.
Okay.
So like that's gonna help a lot. And this being said, if nobody has any other question, we're gonna be about to wrap up the room. And don't forget, we're gonna meet Monday and Wednesday and Friday. So thank you one more time very much, Maribel, for everything. I think it was a great session, and we learned a lot, and we find new things that we never knew about it. So we're looking forward to see you again back, and educate us maybe on next time on the PDF, on how to put 200 pages of PDF in the most easy way. Because for sure I'm gonna need that. So thank you one more time, and have everybody have a wonderful and blessed day. I appreciate you, and see you next time. Bye
All right.
bye.
Bye.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.